I've worked as a social worker for over 20 years, and I've seen what happens when the pressures of life get too much. I wanted to make a film that showed that while everyone is different, you can find a way that helps you deal with the burdens of life.
You can choose to either swallow that pain down and be like we were taught to in my generation and generations before me. Boys don't cry. The pinnacle of manhood is the strong, silent type. So you keep your mouth shut, you don't cry, and you just go about your business. And the problem with that is you create a ticking time bomb.
When I needed help, I wasn't afraid to ask for it, and that's what I've found with a lot of friends and that I know, that sometimes we're too scared to ask for help, or we're too proud to ask for help. You know what? Yeah, we are. I faced that. But I knew if I didn't ask for help, that somehow I wasn't going to get through that. It was too big a battle to fight on my own.
I recognised that if I wanted to get over this thing, or not allow it to affect my life so much, that I would have to not run away, just face it, and just deal with it over time.
Yeah, you might get knocked down, you might go through those rough times, but you also learn to sort of conquer those fears, and it's that mental game of, you come back to the same spot and have to prepare yourself mentally to then have that same commitment. And yeah, so you get that kind of progression through just conquering those fears over and over again, which is really cool.
4 blokes told their stories about the struggles and pain they have been through in their lives.
I joined the Navy pretty much because I was in a country Queensland town, and my parents, it was either work in an aluminium smelter or work in an alumina refinery, and so they wanted me to have more opportunities than that. The thought of uniformed service really appealed to me, and it always had done since I was a boy. That feeling of being part of something bigger. And that wasn't in my reckoning when I joined the Navy, that actual armed conflict would be part of the equation. It was, but at 19, I was too young to really comprehend how big an impact it was. Now that I've got kids and been married, it's a huge thing. It's a huge commitment and a huge potential risk. The ship I was on, we were plane guard for one of the US aircraft carriers, so there was lots of sorties flown right off our bow. Yeah, it was interesting. Our return from the Persian Gulf was very interesting. We were met before we got to meet our families in Brisbane. The Vietnam Veterans Motorcycle Association came on board to have a chat to us about that very thing. We were boys coming back, and there's all these burly, grey-haired, leather-clad bikies talking to us. And one of them stood up and said, "The world's changed for you guys now. You've been places and seen and done things that the people that you live with aren't going to understand, and you're going to find that living with them is going to frustrate you, because the worst thing in their world is going to be that they didn't have the shop didn't have that dress in their size, or they couldn't have the latest whatever it was, and that's going to frustrate you because you've seen things way beyond that. But remember that what you've just done has safeguarded their ignorance." And he said, and I mean that ignorance with the utmost respect. What the worst thing in their life is that the dress shop doesn't have the dress in their size, and that's what you've created, that safety, that can be the worst thing in their life. And so it was very heartening to listen to these old blokes who wanted us to get a better reception from war than they had got, because they'd been spat at and disregarded and all sorts of stuff, and disrespected. So that it still puts a lump in my throat, remembering those blokes doing that for us in a way that they'd never had it done for them. Having a job that allowed me to be at home more with the kids was what I needed, and the fire brigade was it. I'm still able to serve the community, but have a more balanced family life with it. The fire brigade did allow me a lot more time at home, and where with the Navy I was away a lot, and I would be away for 3 or 4 months at a time and come back, and the girls wouldn't recognise me when they were young, or worse, they did recognise me and didn't trust me because they knew I'd only be going away again. I've been able to be home with my boy from the time he was born, and have him as my shadow, that first day of preschool was pretty traumatic because I didn't have him anymore. He wasn't mine, he was part of the bigger world. He wasn't the one crying on the first day of preschool, it would have been me.
It's good to be able to get out here and just sort of have like that rest time, like that, I guess, time to sort of, you know, some people, they go and read a book. I jump on my bike and, you know, that's my peaceful time. Yeah, my mum would basically stand behind a door and my dad would come home drunk from one of the nights and she'd stand behind the door with a frying pan and try and knock him out so that there wouldn't be any fights, but she probably didn't hit him hard enough, and so the fight would sort of break out and they'd be punching and whatnot, and things are flying. You know, I remember ashtrays going across the room and hitting him in the head, and you know, my sister would run down the street and I was there, and I just remember clear sort of memories even as a 3-year-old. You know, my dad had sort of had her in the rocking chair, sorry, and was just laying into her, and I could only think of, I picked up this chair, I could barely lift it, and I just tried to like run up and kind of hit him with it, and he just sort of like kicked the chair out and I went flying, and so I'd quickly run up to the room. One time he said, I'm going off to work and everything goes per usual, and then he just didn't come back, and you know, I'd be like, where's Dad? He should be home. And yeah, just no information, and he took off, and he said it was, you know, one of the hardest decisions that he's ever had to do, but you know, he did it for a good reason, I guess, and so that just left me with my mum and my sister.
And that's when you got into crime?
Yeah, so it kind of started in primary school. This one time my mum, she had just a pretty basic safe, but she couldn't get into it, and just thought, hey, what the heck, and she goes, oh, you know, see if you can get into that. And you know, I was playing the Nintendo 64 or whatever it was at the time, and yeah, anyway, she left the room for probably about 10 minutes and came back out, and I said, oh yeah, the safe's open, still playing. And she's like, what? Yeah, I opened it. And yeah, so from that point on, it was really like, well, okay, I can use him to do that. So I'd basically do up these full plans on how to rob a certain place and sell it to the people, and in some cases I'd actually get copies of the keys or copies of the security codes, and literally I'd just hand them basically a how-to manual on certain places. And yeah, so that was my life.
Since Peter and I went to school together, he's been through a lot. We caught up at his gelato shop, which I heard so much about in our Year 10 maths class.
Do you remember at school when I got sent out from class and I told the teacher, Miss, I'm going to be the gelato king? Well, yeah, I did it. I did it.
You got into a lot of trouble for that.
I did get into a lot of trouble, and I remember at the last school reunion, I showed our teacher the article they wrote about me, and it said, Gelato King wins gold again. She gave me a big hug, so that was nice. Yeah. It's come at a price. It hasn't been easy. I was in partnership in this gelato business with my brother, and it didn't work out. As a result of that, we went our separate ways, but also my family chose to side with my brother, and they abandoned me. So I have no family as a result of that. So that was a very traumatic time, and I needed all the strength that I thought I had. I needed more than that to get through it. The feeling of abandonment, loneliness, emptiness, crazy thoughts, you know, thoughts that you shouldn't think. I don't remember a lot of things about school, but I do remember being ridiculed about being a gelato or wanting to be the gelato king, and what kind of future is that, and that's dumb, and you know, blah blah blah. And it was difficult to explain to my friends what it was that I was feeling, but I knew that I wanted to do that. I wanted to be a chef, you know. And back then, to be a chef and and enroll in home economics wasn't considered the cool thing or the manly thing. It was considered, you know, quite the opposite. So that was challenging in itself. So, you know, to get through that wasn't easy at school, but you have to stand strong, you know, and if you believe in something, just keep persevering.
It was bittersweet to catch up with Rob. My friend Andrew, who was also his twin brother, committed suicide 20 years ago. We and many others are still affected by it.
Time lessens the pain, it doesn't take it away. You know, I now work in a large organisation, working disabilities. I'm a supervisor in a disability sheltered workshop, and we had three guys with disabilities named them Andrew. And every time, or almost every time, I say Andrew in the factory, my mind's reminded of my brother. I'm really just very sad that it all is like that. I'm not only sad for me, but sad for my family. My parents didn't take it well. Over a 3-year period after my brother died, my father was in serious depression as well, and he basically drank himself to death. And my mother decided to move interstate. As a result, I don't think she could handle living in the same place as watching my brother grow up. He had a bubbly personality, maybe not the life of the party, but close to. He would think out of left field quite a lot. If a teacher in the class asked a question that was ambiguous, 19 people out of the 20 would understand it one way, he'd understand it another way. Both were right. I liked the fact that he was always there. He had so much potential. I didn't realise it, but he was thinking about probably too serious things, and which sort of, I guess, screwed his mind around a bit too much. He would always take things too much to heart. I think it was quite often not that light. I've had a cleaning job for the last 6 years, and I'm doing it 2 a.m. in the morning, and quite often my mind dwells on my brother in those times when I'm just alone cleaning the building I'm cleaning, and just such a waste, you know.
I've been through 2 divorces, and everyone's got pain in their life. Well, I'm not special in any regard when it comes to pain. We all go through pain, and how we choose to deal with that pain is critical to how we go on, how we engage with life after that, and how we affect the people that love us and that we love. I found that I was able to communicate so much more in pictures than it would take me to try and verbalise, especially when it's abstract things that you haven't quite got a handle on yet and can't put into words. Expressing them in alternative ways other than writing things down or speaking them out, I found hugely beneficial, especially going through tough times. This painting here was one of those times, expressing how it felt without having to put it into words, without being able to put it into words because I hadn't got my head right around where my head was at the time. Being able to communicate clearly how that felt was gratifying. It was a release, and so painting's always been that way since.
My dad had called and visited a few times sort of within that time frame there, and I'd seen that he actually went to this regeneration program and sort of got his alcohol sort of addiction or whatever sorted, and so same with the violence there. You can't just take things that don't belong to you and stuff like that and realise that. And I wasn't sort of really into the whole God thing, or I didn't know anything about it really, but what I did pick up on is just that, when you do something bad, that you're going to have bad things happen to you, almost, I guess you could say, karma or things like that. But if you do good things, it can also help people and make them smile and you feel good, and all sorts of things can happen. My dad was really drilling into me the respect, the integrity, a man's character, all these kind of things which obviously he had learnt. I started riding BMX, and that was actually, some of the best times of my life was actually just riding. I don't know, that is worth more than any sort of sum of money or this and that. And the feeling that I got when if you get a big dirt jump, and you're sailing through the air, like you're flying, and I guess that's one of I guess the world's biggest sort of things, is that experience to fly. Everyone would love to be able to fly somewhere, and I guess the bigger the jumps, and these days, I'm jumping some of the biggest jumps in the world. We just had a competition recently that was declared the largest competition dirt jumps in the world, and you're literally sailing through this jump and trying to find the other side, which is so far away, but at the same time you're looking down and there's nothing but the ground, and you're just sitting there on this piece of metal with some wheels, and for some reason that just gives you the best feeling.
Not only do you have your gelato shop that you feel is your sense of community and your community service to the Smithfield area, you also do huge amounts for animal welfare. Huge amounts. We feel compelled to save as many animals as we can. Unfortunately, they need saving, and we've been fortunate enough to save many. I've lost count. Rehoming them, rehabilitating them, and all sorts of things. Just reuniting them with their owners if they get out. So that's our mission. You ask for help, you're going to receive it. And it's important that we, as a community, don't feel afraid to say, hang on, I'm not all right. There's something wrong with me here. Can I talk to you about it? And that's where it starts. And sometimes our friends don't know the simple things they do, like having you over for dinner, or giving you a hug, or asking, hey, are you okay today? Is there anything I can get for you? Bringing you a bag of shopping because they know that you're working day and night just to pay the bills and you haven't had time. Little things like that. It might not sound like much, but when you're in your darkest times, they're the shining light. And I keep persevering because there's always challenges. We always face challenges in life, and they're constant. It's the way we face them. If we can face them with a smile and with that attitude of perseverance, only good things are going to come from that. I really want to thank these guys for sharing their stories. If you haven't found your thing, keep searching and don't give up.
Because life's not a battle to be fought. At times, maybe it's confronting, but it's not a battle to be fought. It's something to be enjoyed.